two things can be true. You can have had a very hard time. Privilege is not just limited to white people, but to say white privilege doesn't exist from a historical context, to me, is respectfully absurd.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. White people also experience racism.
I think racism is definitely not a one race against the other. It goes all ways. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian, it doesn't matter. You could experience racism no matter what color your skin is.
I think that people...
That's a controversial idea now. The idea that every group can be racist is controversial now. They've changed the definition. Everybody can hate people and discriminate against them based on their race. Racism. That's controversial now.
So the argument against this position frequently is that racism is a system, not a sentiment in the United States. And I agree with that really strongly. But at the same time, I'm Jewish and racially white and have definitely...
No, that's a new definition. Racism is a sentiment. If you view Group X as being superior to Group Y, that's racism. Point blank, period. This politically motivated push to change these definitions, and it's insane. It's clearly a power play. This idea that you can't be racist if your group isn't the one, if you're part of the majority or powerful group in a society, or you can't be sexist if you're part of the powerful gender, or you can't be ableist. Like it's like this weird, like these weird formulas that they're creating is just insane. What happened to just plain old just being a bad person, right? It's like they're trying to co-opt words because they know these words have power and they can damage people, and they're just trying to disarm their enemy.
I'm proud of being Jewish and being connected to an ancient religion and culture, but I'm not proud to be white, I would say.
You're not proud to be white because it's not wise to have that position. It's not socially and politically expedient to have that position. That's why you're not proud of it. If it was something that was lauded and applauded in society, you'd definitely be proud of it. Of course you're not proud of it. Of course you're not proud of it. Like it's not an act of courage to just go along with the mob. If you want to be proud of what your ancestors did, and it's coming from a healthy place, you shouldn't feel insecure about expressing that. Now, if it's coming from a place of, hatred, and you're just like being hateful and you're expressing some sort of weird sentiment, then maybe there's a problem there.
Privilege, I think, is an aspect of American society. I think it exists. When I go to a job interview, I don't have to worry about my hairstyle or the way I normally speak or my name. And that's something perhaps a black person would have to worry about.
I mean, I think a lot of times these issues we identify as being due to racism can simply be explained by in-group and out-group and class.
So I just want to say that I want to validate everyone's individual experiences. I do also believe that white people experience bias, prejudice, but the reason I did not step forward is because by definition, racism is tied to power and economics. You talked about.
By whose definition? That's ridiculous. By whose definition? Who created that definition? Okay, so here's the Webster's Dictionary definition of racism. A belief that a race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. This has nothing about what she said, economics and prejudice and all this other nonsense. There's a very simple definition, and they keep trying to change it because they want to use the word as a weapon.
Systemic discrimination. I don't feel white people experience racism by definition and by actual concept.
Like she's just clearly been propagandized. She's got the talking points and she's ready to go. She's been equipped with the activist toolkit and she's got all these talking points ready to go, and she's speaking with a level of confidence and zeal. She is clearly not prepared to listen to the other side. She came in there and she's ready to educate without any intention of being educated.
So that has not been the white experience in this country, but it does not invalidate the things that white people experience. It's just not racism by definition. Is it prejudice? Is it bias? Is it wrong? Yes.
Mine is simple. If one person treats another person differently because of the color of their skin, to me, that's racism. I will take.
For the most part. There you go. For the most part.
That I was stopped by the police plenty of times when I was a young man. And I will also tell you that I then decided to spend 35 years as a policeman. I'll tell you that I stopped lots of kids coming home from school. Depending on who it was that I stopped, the first thing out of their mouth would be, "You only stopped me because I'm black." And I would say, "You're driving a sports car with a back window that's this big. I can't see who's driving, and I stopped you because you're doing 95 and a 55. I had no idea who I was pulling over until I stopped you. Now, if I treat you differently..."
If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if you're looking at the world through this concept of everyone hates you because you're black, of course you're going to think, oh, anything that happens that isn't according to what you feel is favorable, you're going to view that as racism. The cashier looked at you wrong at the grocery store and then greeted the white lady behind you. That's racism. Default to racism. All the unfavorable shit that happens to me is purely because of racism. It's because I'm black. It's fucking insane.
Because you're black, then I'm a racist. But if I write you the same ticket that I was going to write you before I knew who was behind the wheel, I'm not.
So I'm glad you used that example, and I want to commend you for your service for our country. But I do want to.
But she's there to talk to him and let him know why he's wrong. So disingenuous. I'm glad you brought that up. Let me tell you why you're wrong. I'm on a show about middle ground, but I'm not at all prepared to cede any ground.
My name is Sierra. I'm an actor, a speaker, and a human rights activist. I'm very proud to be African American, to be black. The challenges that come with being black, also being a black woman, are very real. I'm at a place in my life where I'm acknowledging these things are real, discrimination is real.
I've never seen a people so proud to be victims, to identify as victims. Like, that should be the first tell that this stuff is fake. That should be the first sign that this is a power play for socioeconomic capital. Like, imagine having your village overran by Genghis Khan and then being proud of being the victim of him.
The police force is foundationally racist.
I want to start off by saying I don't think that every cop out there today is racist.
Same.
I think there are a lot of them who are really doing good work. What I know from the establishment of the policing in the United States, that is directly from the slave catchers who were hired to catch runaway slaves and bring them back.
Yeah, because obviously policing would have never existed if it weren't for the slave patrols. The idea of having a police force to ensure that laws are followed didn't exist until these slave patrols. Like, what?
Yeah, I agree that all cops aren't racist. I had plenty of interactions with police that were fine, but, I was told by a former police officer who was, a cop who decided he didn't want to do that anymore, that, the training is pretty much specialized.
Why are you having so much interactions with police? Like, is there any room for self-critique? Like, why is that happening?
It's for only colored people, especially black people, that if you're around them, they're the most dangerous, so you have to act in certain situations or react in certain situations.
I think I just really want to emphasize that I really think that there are some officers who are white that don't even believe that they're doing anything that may be racially motivated, because they're simply doing what they were taught to do.
I come from a police family, and I'd like to add, they do offer diversity trainings in the academy. So either it needs to be more extensive, or maybe we need to take it a step back and fix the selection process.
Like, I'm not a cop, but it must be so fucking frustrating to have a bunch of people who are completely removed who have no real stake in the game trying to tell you how to do your job, which involves life or death on a daily basis. Couldn't be me.
Historically, people formed groups, villages. Some people were hunters, some people were farmers, and then you had whoever was going to protect the group. And over hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever it is, that's how we wind up having cops, firemen, armies, and navies. Community policing as a theory is a good idea. As a practice, it has some hiccups. When I show up at your house because you and your husband got into it and he beats you up and I'm friends with him, so do I want to take him to jail?
It's a very good point. These people have all the great ideas, but again, they have no stake in the game. They're not experts, but they are so confident in what they're saying.
He's my friend. Or I live in the same neighborhood and I go deal with some guy who's a really bad dude and he says, I know where you live, I know where your kids are. So to some degree, we have to have a little separation. This is going to get into a hot button topic, but I will tell you that, when I watched the horrible video of George Floyd, I will tell you that I can justify many of the things that happened, but I cannot justify 9 minutes on his neck or back. But what I can also tell you is I, as a policeman, and this is my personal opinion only too, the officer who was on him for 9 minutes, he probably spent too much time in the same neighborhood spent too much time in the same neighborhood dealing with the same problems over and over again that he became jaded.
Isn't that what being a police officer is?
It's a social
That's the
service
job.
job.
They get to sit back in their comfortable position and be like, but isn't that what it is? Yeah, you get to see a bunch of people die and you get to see the most horrible shit that a human could ever see. Isn't that your job? Buck up, fellow. Absolutely no compassion for what these people might be having to go through and the conditions which might even lead to some of the behaviors that they see. It's almost like blow it away, like, that's your job. That's your job. Like,
I think that we need to get some type of real accountability that I don't think the police should be policing themselves. So when
there are bad cops, obviously. But this accountability discussion is always a one-way street. There's no room for accountability for the people who constantly find themselves in these situations where they interface with these bad cops. They want one-sided accountability where it's just the cops that have to make improvements on their behavior.
White privilege exists.
I mean, America was founded by white people, for white people at the time. All of the institutions were designed to benefit white people. So, of course, white privilege lingers into society today. You can't deny that.
Where I would argue with you just a little bit is I think we throw out the term white privilege far too often for things that aren't necessarily white privilege.
I've got to agree with you completely on that one. I think there's generational white privilege for sure, but I think now it's almost used as a reason to not try as hard. If we stop doing that, just really work for it and not use white privilege as an excuse, then we could really get somewhere in the black community.
I would respectfully disagree. All of that is true to an extent. I graduated university during the pandemic, the height of it. I went abroad for university. I got 2 degrees. I graduated with honors. Learned to speak 2 languages. I should have been able to get a job right away, right? No.
No, you shouldn't have.
It took me 9 months before I was able to get a job. Had to go completely outside of my field. But then when I looked at all of my white colleagues who were in my program, all of them were hired immediately.
Literally proving what the other guy just said. People see it where it may not exist. So because you didn't get a job that you felt you were qualified for, it was because of your skin color. Like, maybe you did something wrong. The idea that you just immediately arrive at the conclusion that it's because of white privilege is fucking nuts.
I need to introduce you to my daughter. She's white. Took her a long time. out
And
of
I'm not
college.
saying that. I'm saying
And
just
she didn't get her job in what her degree is in either.
I respect that, but my point is saying me comparing myself to the white students who were directly in my position, they're successful, I'm not.
And it's because you're black. Like, what?
I have been fetishized for my race. You know, the standard one. You're pretty for a black girl. I'm like, that.
Bruh, I don't think anyone has said that to you. Literally, if you didn't have your hair like that, I wouldn't even know you were biracial. She looks like your standard white chick. Standard issue. She looks like your standard issue white chick. Like, who is saying that? Who, who is saying that? Like, she looks like she got a tan specifically for this show. Like, she looked like she dialed up her 10% blackness, but she looks like she's 10% black, bro. Like, she's literally a caricature right now, bro. Like, she's tripping.
That's not a compliment. That's so weird to say. And like one of the go-to pickup lines for men, they're like, oh my God, what are you? Like, this is not cute.
She's got to be a plant, bro. She's got to be a plant. There's nothing about her that communicates exotic. I don't know what fucking where are you from, where people are going, what are you? But where I'm at, no one would have that question. Can you point to these people in the room saying this? Can you point to them?
I'm tired of having this conversation. This is lame. Yes, I know I have green eyes, hazel eyes. Like, let's move on. I think.
Okay, that was her prompt. Like, that prompt spoke to her. She seems to clearly have had a lot of racial mishaps.
I think just being a woman, you know, we deal with certain things every day. Specifically being a black woman, being fetishized, it's interesting because if I, especially in my industry, because I'm there to work and be professional, I'm just super professional and I don't give any attention to that at all, that kind of energy, then I'm an angry black woman. So I think that it's just really...
You can't win.
It does feel like that, so yeah, that you can't...
They look so happy in their quote-unquote oppression. They look so fucking in their bag with that oppression. Like, they're in their fucking bag with this impression, bro. People who are actually being oppressed don't have this like smirk and grin on their face as if they're part of the in-group. It's like, yeah, it happened. It's like when we wonder why people are so quick to victimize themselves and try to identify as part of some victim group. There's so much currency in being a victim nowadays. Anyways, that was the video. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.